All right, let's talk about retiring at 62 years old with $500,000 or less. That's what we're looking at today on the Your Financial EKG YouTube channel. Now, here's what we're going to do. Let me show you this. I've got cash and penny coin. From an asset standpoint, cash and penny have $462,000 saved for retirement. Okay. Now, they're wanting to retire at 62 years old. So we're looking at how can we retire at 62 with $500,000 or less saved for retirement. And that's what we're going to look at today. Now, the first thing we want to talk about is if we decide to retire at 62 or even later than 62, and we have $500,000 or less saved for retirement, where are we going to get our income from? That's our first question. Where's our income coming from? And if you're looking at most retirees in America who are retiring at 62 with less than $500,000 saved for retirement, the first form of income is going to be Social Security. So we want to have an optimal Social Security claiming strategy before we step into retirement. So let's look at this for cash and penny. So cash and penny are going to retire at 62 and 4 months and 62 and 6 months. Okay. Now they're going to claim Social Security around the age of 63. So for cash, if he claims at 63, he would get $1,886 a month in Social Security. If Penny claimed at 63, she's going to get $1,458. Now, if we're looking at this from a calculator standpoint, they could claim at 62, right? If they were to retire at 62 and 0, like at 62, they would get $1,761 and $1,361 respectively. Okay, now, keep in mind, if you were born in the year 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67 years old. So for cash and penny, their full retirement age is 67. That means they're going to get 100% of their full retirement benefit. But if you decide to claim Social Security benefits at 62, if you claim early, you're going to receive 70% of your full retirement benefit. So for this example, if we're retiring at 62 with $500,000 or less, the first form of income that we're going to need in retirement that we want to optimize in retirement is Social Security benefits. So if you claim Social Security at 62, you're going to get 70% of your full retirement benefit. Now, if you claim at 63, you would get 75% of your full retirement benefit. If you claim Social Security at 64, you're going to get 80% of your full retirement benefit. If you claim Social Security at 65, you're going to get 86.7% of your full retirement benefit. If you claim at 66, you would get 93.3% of your full retirement benefit. And if you waited until age 67, you're going to get 100% of your full retirement benefit. Now, 68, 69, up to 70, you get an 8% increase every year. Up to age 70, which would be 124% of your full retirement benefit. I call these people overachievers, broccoli eaters, right? Okay, so let's keep moving forward. So for cash and penny, we're looking at taking Social Security at 63. Now, all right, so this is a live, so put in the comment section a couple questions here. When are you going to retire? Okay, you can either leave the date or your age. And number two, when are you going to claim Social Security benefits? So I want to know, when are you going to retire? And when are you going to claim Social Security benefits? And for bonus points, tell me where you're watching from. What state, what city, who's your college football team, all that good stuff. I enjoy that. Okay, perfect. So let's go back to cash and penny here. All right. So cash and penny are claiming Social Security at 63. That's one of the first things that we want to think about if we're going to retire at 62 And if we're going to retire with $500,000 or less, when are we going to claim Social Security benefits? Now, from an asset standpoint, we've got a 401k, we have an IRA, we have a Roth IRA, and we have a bank account. So we have 4 different types of retirement investing accounts, all totaling $462,000 saved for retirement. Okay. Now, in 401k form, Cash has $207,000 saved for retirement in his 401k. He's contributing $283 a month into his 401k. That's a 5% percentage, and he's getting a 3% match. So in total, Cash is putting 8% into his 401k on a monthly basis. Now, if you're saving for retirement, a really good rule of thumb is you want to save somewhere between 10 to 15% of your gross annual income into retirement investing accounts. Now, that can be 401k, Roth IRA, traditional IRAs, 403bs, a combination of all of those, but somewhere between 10 and 15%. So if you make $100,000 a year, just using easy math, so I don't have to grab my calculator, you want to put away $10,000 to $15,000 annually into your retirement investing accounts. Okay. Now we have Penny has an IRA that has $205,000 in it. And Penny also has a Roth IRA with $45,000 in it, of which we're doing a Roth contribution of $8,000. And they have a bank account with $5,000. This is their emergency fund. All right. So we've got Mark Sully from Georgia. Go Dogs. I see you. I see you. And Stu D, Washington Huskies. Very cool. Very, very cool. So here's the question I want to answer. When are you going to retire? Okay. What age or date? When are you going to claim Social Security benefits? And then you can tell me who your college football team is or what state you're calling or what state you're watching from. I'm calling from. It sounds like I'm on a radio show. What are we calling from? Where are you calling from today? All right. So we've got $462,000 saved for retirement in total assets. Now, let's go to the average retirement savings. I like this. This is from Kiplinger. And this article shows us the average retirement savings by age. And this is a recent article. And what I love about it is it gives us kind of a good idea of what the median and mean retirement savings by age are. So if we look at this, if you are less than 35 years old, the median saved for retirement is $18,800. The mean is $49,130. Ages 35 to 44, the median saved for retirement is about $45,000. The mean is $141,520. Ages 45 to 54, the median saved for retirement is $115,000. The mean is $313,220. This is where I'm starting to work with people for the most part, ages 45 and up. $115,000 saved for retirement. So we're not very far off of where we're looking at for Cash and Penny Coin. I keep forgetting their name because there's actually another name for a client. I had to change the name to protect the innocent. Cash and Penny. Now, ages 55 to 64, the median saved for retirement is $185,000. The mean is $537,000. Ages 65 to 74, the median is $200,000, and the mean is $609,230. So when we're looking at this, you probably fall within the median, which is why on our channel, we're always, for the most part, we have clients that have all ranges of assets, but I'm always wanting to help everyday Americans, which fall into this median for the most part, because most financial channels, Fox Business, CNBC, Forbes, I've been watching it because it's Financial Planning Awareness Month, okay? And so Fox Business and CNBC, they've had all this financial planning, and everything seems to be geared towards people with multiple millions of dollars. And to me, I look at the numbers, even the median and the mean, and the average American who's fallen somewhere between these numbers. So let's say age 55 to 64. So let's say you're falling somewhere between $540,000 and $185,000 saved for retirement. You're falling somewhere in this range. You don't have multiple millions of dollars. And so we need to look at, how do we retire? How do we go from point A, working, to point B, retirement, and then get to point C, like end of life? And like, what do we need to do this, right? What are the steps? And so that's what we're looking for. Claiming Social Security. That is number one. Understanding when the most optimal time to claim Social Security is going to be. So when we're looking at cash and penny coin, we've got $462,000 saved for retirement at their current age. Okay, we're looking at retiring at 62. They're 61. We're going to retire in about a year from now. Okay, so looking at the average, they're falling closer up here. Now, let's look at some of these comments. Good breakfast. Ooh, I like a good breakfast. I'm 17 months away to 62, married man. I've been watching you on YouTube. I'm a Georgia dog. Georgia, man. What is with all these Georgia fans? I better hide my Kentucky football. I need to wear Kentucky basketball, not Kentucky football, because this has not been a Kentucky football year. This has been, hopefully it's going to be a basketball year after we whipped up on Purdue recently. 17 months away, 62. That's awesome. You're counting down. Lakeshore, 62 to 67. Illinois. It's a good age rate. Most people are wondering the same thing, Lakeshore. They're saying, when do I claim Social Security? Do I claim Social Security at 62? Do I claim at 63? Do I claim at 64, 5, 6, 7? Like, when do I do that? And something to think about, Lakeshore, really is, I love this chart. I use it a lot. And it's on SSA.gov's website. But if you look at this, here's age 62. If you were to claim Social Security at age 62, you'd get 70% of your benefit, right? You following, Lakeshore? But if you claim at 63, you get 75% of your benefit, okay? That's huge. That's a 5% difference in that year's time frame. And so what you want to be asking yourself and calculating in when you're building out your financial EKG, your retirement plan, is how big of a difference is it if I wait per year, right? 62 to 63, 63 to 64. How big of a difference is it? And then where is my income going to come from if I wait? Can I pull income from my investment accounts? And is that going to bridge me to, say, 62 to 6? Is it worth the 5% increase when I'm pulling maybe 6 or 7% from my retirement investment accounts to bridge me to the time I'm going to claim Social Security? So we'll look at all of that on this video so you guys can make a really good, assumption of when you can retire. Okay. Enjoying your bride. Love the scripture verses. SEC football talk too. Yeah, we're going to talk about the SEC. That's what we do here. Jeff Woods, Mizzou. Missouri's got a good team, but man, couldn't take care of Vanderbilt. Vandy. Whew, scary Vandy. Jeff says, I'm a retired teacher with $4,200 pension trying to figure claiming spouses and my Social Security. Jeff, that's awesome. That's an awesome pension. Most people don't have that nowadays. All right. From an asset standpoint, cash and penny have a home worth $300,000. So we're looking at $300,000 in property. Okay. Now we're looking at a rate of return of 4.96%. The reason we're doing 4.96, I'm going to grab my glasses here because I turned 40 in like a month and I can tell it in my eyes because, man, my eyeballs hurt when I can't read the little letters anymore. When I look at my phone or something, I'm like, man, is it my contacts? Is it my glasses? Like, what is going on here? So I had to get some fancy readers so that I could see what's on those little pages. I have this little bitty Bible I take to church. I think I talked about this on the last live stream. I keep it in my back pocket so I can, it's not the big old Bible that you keep on the coffee table. And I open that up in church and I'm like, I can't see a daggum thing in this anymore. I'm going to have to bring my big Bible into church. All right. So from a rate of return standpoint, before retirement, we're projecting out a 5% rate of return. And then once we get into retirement, we're projecting out a 4% rate of return. So we're looking at a portfolio total return of 4.96%. Now, let me talk to you about total return. So when we talk about total return, we mean the return the portfolio is going to get in capital appreciation, dividends, and interest. That's total return. So a lot of times people will comment, they'll say, well, Drew, just take all the money and put it in JEPI, and they're going to get whatever the dividend is on that, 7-8%. Okay, I'm calculating in a total return of 4.96%, which includes dividends, interest, capital gains. Now, I realize that is a lower rate of return than many of you would say is reasonable for the next 30 years. If you look at the stock market over the last 30 years, it's averaged, okay, it's averaged about 10 to 12%. Now, I don't want to project out 10 to 12%. I want to project out somewhere between 4 to 6%. If you look at a 60-40 portfolio, 60% equity, 40% fixed income, 60-40, that's averaged about 8.5% the last 50 years. So in that case, we're actually about 3 to 4% less than what a 60-40 moderate portfolio has averaged. I understand that. When we're doing the EKGs, what you don't always see on YouTube is that as we're doing an EKG with a client, so for instance, for Cash and Penny, when we're doing these EKGs, great example is I just got off the phone with a client of mine up in Maine. We did an EKG about 2 years ago. We updated the EKG on a yearly basis. He wasn't close to retirement, or he wasn't necessarily like at retirement's doorstep. He was like 5 years away. Well, now things have changed and he wants to retire in June of next year. So this year alone, we've updated his EKG 3 times because we're wanting to make sure we stay on track. So that's the same with Cash and Penny. Even though I'm showing a projection of 4 to 5%, if they were to happen to get 8, 9, 10, 12, 14% on their return, when we go to update the EKG, we're updating the numbers for the return of the last year. It would be like going and getting blood work. Oops, I just hit my desk. It'd be like getting blood work. And then you go to the doctor and he's like, okay, Drew, based on your blood work, you need to eat more kale because your glucose is high or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. And so the next year or 6 months later, you go for more blood work and you've been pounding kale, okay? And the blood work looks a lot better. And the doctor reads your old blood work and says, Drew, you need to eat more kale. And I'm like, no, I just did blood work. And like my numbers are a lot better. So the doctor's going to read the current blood work. That's the same thing we're doing for the EKG. And you do for your planning, whether you're doing that with us. And then listen, if you want a financial EKG, go to the description below. Let's get together to build out your plan. But whether you're doing it via Bolden or an Excel spreadsheet or Fidelity or through your 401k, you want to make sure you're updating those numbers, even if you have projections on there. Okay. So we're looking at this with a 4.96% rate of return. Now, from an expense standpoint, this is where we start talking about things like inflation. We start talking about monthly expenses today, and we talked about projected monthly expenses when we get there. Let's see what Robert has to say here. Morning. I know I've asked before, but never got a real answer if possible. All accounts are up for the year. Where or how do you decide what assets to sell to get your disbursement from? Great question. So, Robert, the easiest way to answer that question is it's where you're at in life, meaning the age and the taxability on your investments. So let's use these 4 investments as an example to answer your question. The question is, I've made really good money, right? Let's talk about the stock market as of October 29th. Okay. Market's up. What investments do I sell to make sure I'm liquidating the right investments at the right time and I'm, supporting my financial plan? So we've got a 401k pre-tax, traditional IRA pre-tax, Roth IRA post-tax, tax-free basically, right? So we look at it and we say, well, what age are we? when are we going to have to take required minimum distributions? What's our current tax bracket? So let's see. I think you did another thing. You said, I'm 62, taking Social Security in January from Vegas, Las Vegas, and married. Okay. So here's the question. If all my accounts are up for the year, how do I decide what assets to sell to get a disbursement from? So if we're going to be 62, we're thinking two things. Okay, we're taking Social Security in January. So we've got about 3 months until Social Security kicks in. Which asset do we want to sell at this point where we're at tax-wise? So first of all, we're in a low tax bracket year. So the Trump tax code has become permanent, right? Permanent. Nothing in DC is permanent, but it's permanent. So if you're thinking about later in life, we're at $38 trillion in debt. So RMDs, required minimum distributions for cash and penny or something we're going to talk about, right? Because we've got about $413,000 in pre-tax money that's going to have a required minimum distribution on it. We're in a tax bracket year where we have low tax brackets, right? So the thought process, and Robert, this is to answer your question, is if everything is up and tax brackets are low, let's take the distribution from a taxable source like an IRA in order to lower the required minimum distributions later in life and to allow this tax-free money to continue to grow. Now, obviously, you have your ACA subsidies. You have, if you've got IRMA or anything like that, you've got to protect against that. But just kind of on the surface, Robert, that's what we're looking at. So great question. Really, really good. I hope I answered that. If I did, leave in the comment section that we took care of that. And then here is Erlen Box. Probably if I said that wrong, I'm really sorry. Number one advice, be sure if your employer offers a match to your 401k, do it. I missed out for over 20 years and I'm sick that I never matched it. Correct. Listen, easy rule of thumb. If you have a 401k, a 403b, a TSP, and you get a match, make sure you put in enough to get the match. So if your employer offers the average 3% match, which is the average 401k match in America, make sure you're putting in at least 3% to get the 401k match. Okay? Great advice. Thank you for that. Now, for everybody joining, tell me, when are you going to claim Social Security? When are you going to retire? And what state are you from? City, state, and who's your college football team if you want to talk about that. Okay, so let's talk about expenses. So currently, we have a mortgage of $900, no inflation on the mortgage. We've got baseline expenses of $3,000. This is kind of our everyday expenses, right? Just the everyday, like light bill, Hulu, water, whatever, okay? Property taxes and property insurance is built into this baseline. So baseline for us are going to be expenses that are forever, right? So nothing in life lasts forever until you die. The next one's forever. But baseline is like when you're 90, if you're living in your home at 90 years old, you're going to still pay property taxes. You're still going to have insurances. Okay. Now your taxes might be stagnating. Like in Louisiana, after a certain age, your property taxes don't go up, but you're still going to pay them. Right. So baseline is forever. Like we still want to eat, right? That's in here. Health insurance, $1,200 with inflation. Now, health insurance, we're looking for them is between ages 62 and 65. So this is going to be your ACA, okay? That's going to have inflation on it. So it's $1,200 per month with inflation. These two costs, your health insurance and your Medicare insurance, are going to be the biggest expenses that you will have in retirement outside of housing. And for a lot of you with low loan rates, the Medicare and health insurance is actually going to be more expensive than your house or than your housing. Okay. Now, inside of this Medicare, this is the Medicare Part Supplement. So Part G and Part D for drugs. This does not include IRMA. IRMA is up here. We have IRMA factored in automatically based on whether you're single, you're joint, married, and the income. This 185 right now is going to go up to 206 or 205, somewhere between 205, 207 next year. That's Part B. Then based on your income, you might have to pay for Part D, and you might have an increase in your Part B. Now, this is not your Medicare supplement or your Part D drug plan. This is just what you're paying the government for Medicare Part B and Medicare Part D. It's like A, B, C, D, E, F. I feel like I'm talking to my son. Okay. Now, we also want to look at, where's it at? Premium amounts. Here we go. Do we have inflation settings on IRMA? Well, of course we do, right? IRMA goes up just like a Coca-Cola goes up, right? If you buy a Coca-Cola at the grocery store today, right? I like the mini Cokes. It's just enough high fructose corn syrup so I don't feel bad about myself, right? Because everybody says don't drink high fructose corn syrup. That little mini Coke is just enough high fructose corn syrup that I feel like if I go take a run or take a walk or lift weights, I'm going to burn off my high fructose corn syrup, okay? Don't tell my doctor, okay? And don't leave me any ugly comments about high fructose corn syrup. I like my Coke. I grew up in the 90s. I'm a kid of the 90s. I like my Coca-Cola, and I grew up in the South, so we say Coke. Everything's Coke. Like if you got Pepsi, I'm a Coke guy. Sorry. I do like cherry Pepsi, though. Okay, so IRMA has inflation just like my mini Cokes. So we need to put some inflation on IRMA. So let's just put a 1% inflation, okay? So that means that this Part B is going to grow at 1% every year, okay? That's the IRMA monthly payments. See that? Okay. Save that. Let's see if I can answer some of these questions real quick here. Robert says, thank you for your answer. Unfortunately, all 401k on IRA. So Robert, one of the things you want to be thinking about is Roth conversions. 62, claiming Social Security next year. One of the best things you can be thinking about is Roth conversions. Okay. Erlenbox. Again, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I'm claiming Social Security in October 2033. Awesome. I've planned out retirement and now putting in 21%, includes company match and yearly lump sum, college, go blue, Michigan Wolverines. So in my world, it's go big blue. Big, let me see if I can't get up here. Big blue, right? This is go blue, Michigan Wolverines. My wife's family would be happy. Her uncle is a dean at UM, so they love Michigan. All right. So from an expense standpoint, we're calculating in IRMA with the Medicare and the health insurance. Now, we're also going to factor in a couple different things. We're going to factor in go-go years and slow-go years. Now, here's the next question. We talked about when do you want to retire, when do you want to claim Social Security, and what state you're coming from. Now, leave in the comments section, when you retire, what do you want to do in your go-go years? And then what do you want to do in your slow-go years? Now, slow-go and go-go might not be different in the sense of like what you do. So go-go, you might be like, I'm going to Paris, France. Slow-go, I'm going to Paris, Kentucky. And Paris, Kentucky is beautiful horse country. So if you ever get to Kentucky, go to Paris. Okay. But it's just like, it's how, like, what's the expenditures I'm taking, right? That's a different cost to go to those two different places. So for them, we're looking at go-go years of $850 a month with inflation until 2031. Okay. Then we're going to have slow-go years of $580 a month until 2036. And then once those are done, we're back to just our baseline. And inside of this baseline, we have fun built in, not necessarily travel fun, but we have fun like bowling, movies, eating out, things like that. Okay. We following? Everybody following? Make sure you tell me when you're retiring and tell me when you're taking Social Security. Tell me what you're going to do in your slow-go years and your go-go years. I want to know. Now, the other reason we want to talk about inflation, and I like this inflation calculator. This is NerdWallet. You can get this you just type in NerdWallet inflation calculator if you want it. But what's nice about this is you can actually see what inflation looks like. So let's go to like let's go to 2002. I always use the Coke example. And then let's say today, 2025. Okay, so I would buy a Coke for like 50 cents. And let's calculate what inflation looks like on that now. Due to inflation, that same item would cost 89 cents today. Okay, now how wrong is that? Y'all bought a Coke lately at the gas station? It's like $3. So some things don't follow the average inflation. NerdWallet in this calculator is using average inflation. When we're doing an EKG, we're factoring in the inflation of, see if I can pull up the actual inflation numbers for you. Here we go. We're looking at we got the 111-year average of 3.26, and we got the current 10-year average of 3.03. So see, here's the current, and here's the 111. I'm going to use this. NerdWallet's using 2.5%. Not really sure why, but they are. So what we're thinking is, how do we get this? Like, what's that thing's going to cost? So you got to think about, like, what's healthcare going to cost? What's a nursing home going to cost? Not that you're going to go to a nursing home, but like, what's housing going to cost? What's my HOA going to cost? People live in condos. They have these dues. What are those going to cost? So you really want to factor in inflation when you're building out your expenses. Jeff says planning on Social Security at 62. My wife will take it 65. I think when she does, my Social Security benefit for spousal level, my Social Security is lower because of pension. Awesome. I love the Shiloh Steakhouse in London. Not a lot of people know London, Kentucky. That's awesome. If only we knew when we would kick the bucket, this planning would be easier. Go Canes, the U. Okay, I know. Listen, I talked to the Lord this morning. He didn't tell me when I was going to kick the bucket. I did have a realization, though, that I turned 40 in December. And so that means what percentage of my life have I lived? That's a scary thing to think about. That's what it's probably not the best thing to think about at 40, but I did think about that. Erlenbach says, question around converting 401k to the Roth. If I understand correctly, if making over tax at 22%, retirement income less than the tax at 12%, Roth makes sense if, yeah, so good question. So from a tax standpoint, if you're doing conversions, you have two tax brackets to think about. You have politician tax brackets. This is not academics. This is just Drew talking right now. You have politician tax brackets, which is this, like these brackets here, okay? And then you have your effective tax rate, okay? So your effective tax rate is different from your federal tax bracket. So what you want to be looking at with doing conversions is, yes, you don't want to be jumping brackets and then causing more of your money to be, your conversions going on that top line. So it's going like at that end, it's getting taxed at that higher level. But then what if your effective tax rate is 8.12? Because of standard deductions or the super senior deduction, or you itemize or whatever, then you might be able to do conversions. So you want to look at, after all of the stuff, you want to look at taxable income, right? Can I do some conversions? Does that make sense? I hope that helps. But yes, the goal would be when you retire and you have less income to do the conversions. It just depends. TSP for federal employees are going to start letting them do Roth conversions inside the TSP while they're working. I could make a really good argument. I made this argument to a federal employee yesterday. He worked for the Smithsonian. I said, I can make the argument that doing Roth conversions now is going to be better for you than waiting until you're 65, 70 years old, because we don't know who the next president's going to be. We don't know what the next tax bracket's going to be. We don't know so if you can do conversions while taxes at their historically low, even in higher income, I can make the argument that makes a lot of sense. Now, that doesn't mean you do $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 conversions. Maybe you do $5,000, but I would definitely, if you have the ability. So for Cash and Penny, they've got $205,000 in IRA. If they have the ability to do some conversions, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. We're not talking about that on this standpoint, but it would make a lot of sense to do that. Now, you can enjoy your money while you're young and healthy. So we're talking about why you want to retire at 62 with $500,000 or less. Number one was making sure you claim Social Security at the optimal time. Number two is you can enjoy your money while you're young and healthy. And that's why we've built into this the go-go years and the slow-go years. We don't know how long we have promised. Sunkiss said that. If we exactly knew when we would kick the bucket, planning would be a lot easier. We don't know when we're going to go. We don't know when we're going to have a medical situation that's going to cause us to lose mobility or lose the ability to be mobile, right? Or do things that we want. We don't know when we're going to need a hip or a knee replacement. That's going to slow us down for 6-8 months, whatever. So we want to retire when we are young and healthy and have the ability to enjoy the life that we've been given. Okay. Now we're looking at this. Here's cash flows. Now cash flows is great. They don't have any cash flows at this point. So we're going to skip over this. Pre-retirement. Now you can already see we're cheating a little bit. So you can see that cash and penny are running out of money at 88. Okay. We're going to talk about this, but I don't want to get to it yet because that's pretty darn good. Okay. So here we are. Here's our salaries. Here's our monthly contributions. Here's our net monthly expenses. So we're cash flow positive while we're working, meaning that our salaries are covering all of our expenses. Here's where we're at when we retire. $499,255. So right below $500,000 saved for retirement. So they're going to be 62 retiring with $500,000. Remember we talked about the average. Ages 55 to 64, the median saved for retirement is $185,000. The mean is $537,560. So they're going to be retiring right about here, which is really good. Okay. So it's a high yield CD at 4%. Get it now before the Fed lowers rates today. Now let's go to retirement. All right. So here we are at retirement. We're 62 years old. We're basically retiring in the middle of 62. So we're going to wait until age 63 to claim Social Security. Why are we doing that? Because we want to get this jump. Age 60, 70%. 66 and 6 months is 72.5 of your full retirement benefit. If you wait until 63, it's 75%. So we want to get that extra 5% by waiting that 6 months. Okay. Now for them, here's what we're going to have to pull out of the accounts. Here's Social Security kicking on, $3,344. There's cash and pennies. Got it. There's our expenses, $6,258. Now that's built in. Remember, what are the big expenses in there? Because they're under 65. Big expense number one, health insurance is in there, right? $1,200 a month. That's huge. $24,000 a year. Is that $24,000? That's actually $2,000 a month. See that? My math. See, my health insurance is $1,900 a month. It's like $1,867 or something. Family of 5. It's crazy. I go to the doctor. I got a bill right here. I got to pay. I got to pay $150. I'm like, I just paid you guys $1,867. I still got to pay money. It's crazy. That's the health insurance industry is. Oh, it's tough. It's a tough one. So they've got health insurance here. That's a big expense. We also have go-go years built into this. So here's our distributions. Right now you can see the first 6 months of retirement, they're having to pull out the full amount, $6,089 a month, because we're bridging that until we get to 63. Remember, we're going from 70% full retirement benefit to 75% full retirement benefit. We go from $6,089 to about $3,000 a month for taking out monthly income, right? So we're at $499. We're at $451 basically when we start claiming at the end of the year when we've claimed Social Security. Okay. Now, those expenses are going to continue to go up with inflation, but then we have a slowdown right here. You see this 65.54? Okay, now it's at 63.05. What happened? The go-go years fell off. Now the slow-go years are in there. So there's that $200 difference. Okay. We're at $356,000 in retirement investments, and we have $319,000 in property. Okay. And essentially at 88 years old, we're out of money, which is really good. I mean, odds are they're not going to be here at 88. Mortality tables are like 78 to 81 ish. They just went up. They just updated mortality tables recently. To 80. I think it was from 78.4 to like right at 80. We've gotten far enough away from COVID that the mortality tables have boosted up. So 88 years old. Now, again, we're looking at a rate of return in retirement of 4%. So the software says if they're able to earn 5.95%, let me show you this. if they're able to earn 5.95%, they never run out of money. That's what I love about the EKG. Because what the EKG is going to do is it's going to tell us what is the minimum rate of return that you need to earn on your money to make sure it lasts forever, in conjunction with taxes, inflation, your dreams and goals, long-term care, losing a spouse, everything that's calculated into your retirement. What's the minimum rate of return that you need to earn on your money? Then you can take that information and you can either work with us from an investment standpoint. We are a registered investment advisory firm. Or you can take it and do it yourself and implement it and say, okay, I need to earn 5.95%. Doesn't mean I need to try to hit home runs like Shohei or Freddie Freeman did in the world. Hey, Vladdy did last night in the World Series. Maybe I just need to get on base like P. Rose, singles and doubles. And so now you can shift your investments from, because remember, you got to think about sequence of return risk. Sequence of return risk is the risk that you step into retirement and you get punched in the mouth because the market goes down. Multiple years. Think 2000, 2003, 2007, 2009. We haven't had it in a while. People say, oh, the market just goes straight up. I've been doing this 18 years. Market don't go straight up. I've been a market historian for a long time. Market doesn't go straight up. And so sequence of return risk tells us what's the risk if we step into retirement and the market goes down and we're pulling money out of our investments. What is that going to look like from a recovery standpoint? You understand what I'm saying? So we want to know what's the minimum rate of return that we need to earn with all of that factored in. Okay. Good Breakfast says, question, what's your story and how you started doing this financial thing? I enjoy your style of presentation with retirement talk. I started in 2008, 2009 doing this. My dad's been a financial planner since the 70s. So I guess it's just kind of in my blood. I've always enjoyed presentations and talking. I used to, so I don't know. That's how I started. I started at the bottom. I started in the trading world, like doing trading for clients. Like when you sat down with your broker or financial advisor and they'd call in trades, I was the guy making trades. So I started from that standpoint. And then I transitioned to the financial planning side because I did not like sitting in front of a computer all day. Hence, we're a virtual financial advisory firm now. But I didn't like just doing, not having any relationship with people. And so now I do the financial planning side. So good question. There's a lot more to that. But for this, that's where we're at. Earl Box, he's just a natural. Thank you. So that's God-given. It's a God-given ability. Nothing I could do. He gave me the gift of gab. I'm from the South. We're supposed to sit on our front porches and drink sweet tea, right? I don't like sweet tea though. Don't tell anybody from the South that I said I don't like sweet tea. I am not a sweet tea fan, but I am a Coca-Cola fan, and they're in Atlanta, Georgia. So there you go. Singles and doubles will get the job done as long as you don't spend excessively. Exactly. Singles and doubles. Now, there are things in life that come up. We're going to get into that. I got 15 minutes. I want to go through. So hang on. I want to go through market sequence of return risk. I want to go through minimum rates of return that you need to earn. I'm going to go through some of the meat of this stuff. Box, Drew, as I'm doing my Excel file, I show RMD needs to be taken out 75, currently 54. Is that correct? I can give you the exact time frames. They changed it with Secure Act 2.0 and Secure Act 2019 and 2.0. So if you were born, so required minimum distribution is the requirement that the government says, hey, if you have an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, a traditional TSP, a 457, and it's all pre-tax, you have to take a minimum distribution from that account at a certain age. If you were born before July 1st, 1949, your required minimum distribution date is 70 and a half for your age. If you were born between the year July 1st, 1949 and 1950, 72 is your RMD age. If you were born between the years 1951 and 1959, 73 is your required minimum distribution age. If you were born 1960 or later, your required minimum distribution age is 75. Okay. Do a simple Google search. RMDs based on birth year. It'll give it to you in Gemini and or Chat GTP or whatever you want. But yes, 75 is when you'll start taking your required minimum distribution. Now, another thing to think about, and you guys are asking some great questions and it's getting me like rabbit trailing with RMDs. Why do y'all think, leave it in the comment section, I'll come back to it. Why do y'all think the government pushed required minimum distributions back from 70 to 75? Now, the government, politicians will tell you, and I'm not a political guy, okay? So don't take this out of context. If you talk to me, like if you're a lefty or a righty, I'm a switch hitter. I'll hit both ways. I don't care, lefty, righty. We'll just whatever, okay? But why do you think the government pushed back RMDs? Do you think it was because they were like, we want to give seniors a break. They don't need to be taken out of required minimum distribution. It actually made more sense to have required minimum distribution starting earlier. Why do you think they pushed it back to 75? Leave that in the comment section and we'll come back to that. We'll just pin that. Okay, we'll pin that. Remind me of that if I'm getting ready to finish and I haven't answered that question. Okay, so let's look at a couple things. I want to talk about sequence of return risk for cash and penny. So cash and penny are running out of money at 88, but the rate of return they need to earn is 5.95. This is geometric. Now let's go to market. Let's look at this from a market analysis standpoint. Here's sequence of return risk. A lot of times you hear this called Monte Carlo scenarios. Monte Carlos are great. I'm not a huge fan of Monte Carlos because I don't like percentages in this case. I'm a baseball guy, so I love percentages in the sense of like batting averages and whips and WARs and stuff like that. But what I don't like is if I got on a Southwest plane flight and I was flying to Tucson. Okay, I love the wild, wild west. So let's say I'm going out to Tucson or New Mexico, beautiful country out there. And I said, hey, this is your captain speaking, and it's going to be a clear day for flying. We got about a 92% chance of making it. I'm like, y'all get me off. I'm like, all right, see y'all later. Like, get me off this plane, right? Like, I know there's a risk anytime you get on a plane, but like, I don't want a 92% chance. I want like a 99% chance. So Monte Carlos do the same thing. They're like, oh, you got an 80% chance. You got a 60% chance. Don't tell me that. Like, what I want to see is break it down for me. So what I love about this software versus other softwares is it breaks it down. So we're looking at this year one, okay, geometric returns. We can change these. We can generate various Monte Carlo scenarios. This is a really bad one. We're hitting the face 4 times in a row. There's an old Mike Tyson quote. I get it wrong every single time. Somebody always puts in the comment section what the actual Mike Tyson quote is. But I like the way I say it is, everyone wants to fight until they get in the ring and get punched in the nose. Okay, that's what I think it sounds like, but it's probably something different. But that's everybody wants to retire. Everybody tells me they can retire. It's going to be easy. I'm going to invest in JEPI and everything's going to be okay. And we're going to just keep on until the market goes down multiple years in a row and the fit hits the shan, right? That's the Christian way of saying it. And so what happens if the market does go down? What does that do to our portfolio? What's that do to our retirement plan? In this case, for cash and penny, that's 82 versus 88. We're doing a geometric return over here. This is a market analysis over here. That's a big difference, right? 82 and 88. That's why we really want to know. Now, this scenario might not happen, but it's based on all these other tabs. Income, when we claim in Social Security, how much do we have saved? What are we contributing? What are our expenses? How are those laid out? What are our taxes? Any cash flows, buying cars, roofs, whatever. When are we retiring? And then how are we starting this, right? Dan Berger says, everybody has a plan. Everybody has a plan till it gets blown up, right? Generate another one here. All right, so this one, bad years up front. Where do we go now? Look at this, 88 to 91. So what we're trying to do for the client, as we do reviews, again, if you want a financial EKG, go to the description below. Let's get together. Let's build out a plan for you. Also, you go to our website. I got a free download on there. Can I Really Retire? This is the book I wrote this year. It was published, I think, can't remember the actual date of publishment. It's copyright 2025. I think it came out. I don't really remember what month it came out. but it came out. It's my book. Go to our website. You can download a couple chapters of that and read it, or you can buy it on Amazon, whatever you prefer. My kids would appreciate it if you buy it on Amazon. I get 37 cents a book. So can't even buy a Coke nowadays with that. I don't know what day it says. Anyway, I love this quote. So the first page, I put a quote on. You know how everybody has like a quote on their book? Mine says, as long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. That's Genesis 8:22. Listen, the world's going to keep turning. And it's going to keep turning until it does, until Jesus comes back. But if we're going to keep going to retirement, we want to keep making sure we have a plan as this world turns. Now, we can generate multiple different scenarios to see what happens with all those factors in there. We're also trying to look at what's the minimum that we need to earn in rate of return. We talked about that. So let me grab this to get the minimum. And then I want to show you guys an investment recovery calculator the Toronto Board of Exchange puts out. It's a great calculator. You should save it in your bookmarks. Really interesting. Let's see here. Hey, Drew Shane from Michigan. Go Blue. Go Big Blue, Shane. Big Blue. Love the channel and sports. Will be a client in the future. Oh, nice. Reach out to us. That'd be awesome. I got to get to Michigan. I got to get to a game at the Big House. All right. Now, okay. So for this couple, Cash and Penny, the minimum rate of return that we need to earn, I think it's actually going to be that 5.65. Yeah. No, that's wrong. So a little bit of calculations here. Yeah, if we're looking at the software, I'm trying to get a good figure for this, and the software is just saying it's at 5.95%. Because what I want to look at, I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So you can see this. This is an increment analysis. It backs us up in forward increments, and it says, what if we earn these rates of return, spendable assets at 100? We're at 0. So remember, the software says for them, they've got to earn 5.95%. Right now it's calculating. Did say 5.95 just a second ago. Yeah, 5.95%. So we come over here, throwing in some Monte Carlos, it's going to be that 5.95. So normally we're able to get a better reading on this if we're not running out of money here. But because we're running out of money here, that's what we got to earn to get us to 100. That's our minimum rate, which again, not terrible. 6%, not terrible at all. All right, I got about 6 minutes. If you have questions, leave them in the comment section. Let me show you this recovery calculator. Then we're going to talk about RMDs for a second. All right, so let's look at this. This is an Ontario Securities Commission. I said Toronto Board of Exchange. I meant Ontario Securities Commission. I'm probably thinking about the Blue Jays. I was watching the World Series last night. What's your investment? What your investment was worth. Okay, so this is an investment recovery calculator. So let's say you're worth $500,000. So Cash and Penny have $500,000 when they retire. Expected annual rate of return. Let's just say our annual rate of return is going to be 6%. And let's say what's the current value of our investment. So let's say we lost 20%. That's $100,000. So we're at $400,000. Now, our contribution amount and frequency. We're not contributing anything, right? We're retired. Expected inflation, 3%. Let's calculate this. Our original investment was $500,000 saved for retirement. It's recovered within 9 years. You see that? Adjusted for inflation, your original investment of $500,000 will be recovered in 9 years if the investment return is 6%. Now, what is this not telling us? It's not telling us what's the investment like as we're pulling money out, right? We got to take distributions on this money. This is only calculating in contributions, okay? If it earns 7%, it'll be 7 years before recovery. And if it returns 5%, 13 years. And why I like to show clients this is because you really want to have a good grasp on how much risk you will be taking in retirement. Because risk, like how much you make, like it's all about, we don't need to hit home runs. Singles and doubles. Okay, so let's go back. So I asked this question. I said, why do you think the government pushed your RMD age from 70 and a half to 75. Okay? Because the question was from the Erlenbachs, I show my RMD needs to be taken out at 75, currently 54. They were right. Okay. Robert says your account makes more money. They make more money. Boom, Robert. You're like close. In my opinion, you're close. Okay. I believe. So what they also changed was if you die and you have a non-spouse beneficiary. So let's say you're married, one spouse dies, the other spouse dies. The kids inherit the money, or the nieces and nephews, or your brother, non-spouse beneficiary, not a charity, but a non-spouse person with a heartbeat. The government says, hey, you got to take out that money within 10 years. You got to distribute it in 10 years. And if the person who died was over the age of 75 and they were taking required minimum distributions, you got to start taking a distribution on that money. And you got to have the account drained in 10 years. So the government said, hey, we know people going to die. It's 1 out of 1. The data shows us 1 out of 1 people die. That's why it's so important to know Jesus before you die. Because 1 out of 1, we all going. Even though Elon and all these people want to live forever, you will live forever. But it ain't going to be. It will be. Some people will live here, but some won't. So you know Jesus. So the longer you let that IRA money delay and grow, the bigger taxes the U.S. government's going to get. They ain't looking out for you. They looking out for that $38 trillion in debt, right? Now, if I'm wrong, leave it in the comment section. Tell me if I'm wrong, or if you think something different. All right, I got 2 minutes. If you have questions, concerns, sarcastic comments, tell me you want to talk about football, World Series, or retirement. Leave that in the comment section, and we'll do it for at least the next 2 minutes. Tidal wave. I inherited an IRA from my parents. I'm going to have to take RMDs. Exactly. They were over the age of 75 or over the age of whatever. Pre or post 2020. If it's post 2020, you can stretch it, but you still have to take a required minimum distribution. If it was post 2020, it falls under the new rules. So yeah, I mean that's the thing. Tidal wave. Do you own a tidal wave? Do you own a car wash? Because there's a tidal wave car wash near me, but it's WAVE. Or are you like a title company, like houses? Because you're always on the live stream, and I really appreciate that. So I just wonder, are you doing titles, housing titles, or tidal wave, the car wash? Just an easy question. All right, I got about 1 minute, and we'll keep moving forward. So Cash and Penny are in a good spot. I mean, I'm not really that worried about Cash and Penny moving out at 88. We are going to do some things to elongate this and protect them. Don't have time to get on that on this live stream. I got to go eat. It's my fantasy football team name. Title. I get it. See, I'm thinking like business, and you're thinking like fantasy football. I don't play fantasy football, but I think it's awesome. That's so funny. Like, duh, Drew, duh. Cash and Penny are going to be okay. This is a really good scenario. And for most of us guys, listen, and in all seriousness, would love to work with you. If you guys want to build out an EKG, or you need help with investments, you want to talk to us, Matt and I, or Your Financial Planners, would love to help with you guys. Listen, the average retirement savings in America, the median, the mean, 185 to 537, somewhere within here between ages 55 and 64. These are hardworking Americans who punch the clock every single day and who are getting to retirement. We want to help you get to retirement, through retirement, and protect your ability to stay in retirement. Go to the comment section or go to the description below, get on our calendar, and let's build you out a financial EKG. All right. Robert says this, do you have any advice for a DIY retirement person can't afford a CPF? You mean a CFP? CPF. I'm a CRC, Certified Retirement Counselor. Advice for DIY. That's the whole channel's DIY retirement advice, Robert. But thanks for watching. You're awesome. I see you on a lot of this stuff. Erlenbachs. I've learned so much. Thank you so much for watching. Projection on the Rays next year. As a Tiger fan, hate that we're losing Scooble. Did they trade Scooble? Did I miss that? Rays. The Rays are going to probably stink because that's just is what it is right now. You ain't got no money, you don't win. New ownership, so hopefully the Rays will do better. I grew up a Cubs fan, so I'm a Cubs and Rays guy. Cubs spend money, Rays don't spend money. It is what it is, right? The Dodgers have, what's their lineup? Like $100 billion or something ridiculous. You got to pay for players. That's everywhere. In the NBA, obviously the NBA, they're doing all the gambling now. NFL, you got to pay. That's unfortunate where we're at. College, I have Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky fan. We have a $22 million NIL roster. $22 million NIL roster, meaning 12, 15 guys on that Kentucky basketball team averaged out $22 million. It's like what that roster's getting. Okay, each player's getting different money, but $22 million. Like when I played college baseball, I had to pay for school. I ain't getting no money. All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. God bless. Bye-bye.